Sup, y'all? Welcome back to the Song Machine. I'm your host, Steakman. How to disappear completely. The question itself is one of morbid curiosity and intrigue. We've all thought it before, and you can't convince me otherwise. But very few people actually have the balls to do it. Or Radiohead, I don't know what you're into, I don't king shame here. But we aren't here to talk about Thom Yorke, not today anyway. The phrase isn't just a question for those faced with extreme adversity or hardship. It's also a musical project that arises similar feelings of morbid curiosity. The music is a living, breathing metaphor asking the question how and what would happen if you disappeared without a trace. This is the musical project known only as How to Disappear Completely. Now, a double-edged sword I've seen with the legendary Caretaker video is the music I get recommended from it. It's a double-edged sword because I get a lot of interesting, scary music recommended to me from the comment section, but the downside is I get a lot of interesting, scary music recommended to me from the comment section. Now, you take one look at me, I bet I don't strike you as a fan of experimental drone music, and you'd be right in that assumption. But ever since Everywhere at the End of Time, I've grown a love and fascination for music in that vein. More like a callus, actually. So the comments overall did put me in a crossroads, because I'm not about that existential music all the time. I like me some bops, don't get me wrong. But I think it was time I returned, almost a Stockholm Syndrome way. But a recommendation that I got that really intrigued me that made me want to investigate more was something by the name of How to Disappear Completely. A name that I've heard before when I was doing the research for Everywhere at the End of Time. They would usually come up in the conversation around very dark, ambient music that lurks around the internet. So I put on my pool floaties and prepared to dive back into the droning pits of hell I escaped back in June. But the music presented does indeed have a deeper layer than just the synths and pads heard on the surface. I said I was going to put on my pool floaties and goddamn it, I'm going to do it. So I present you the question, how does one disappear completely? How to Disappear Completely is an electronic music collective based in Poland. And that's where the first issue starts. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all we know. Now, if you thought the caretaker, James Leland Kirby, was an elusive beast, at least photos of him exist. He had a background, he had visual documentation, he had proof that he existed. How to Disappear Completely is about as off the grid as you can be, almost like they disappeared completely. Also, side note, I'm only comparing How to Disappear Completely and The Caretaker because of the elusive nature of their music and the dark ambient genre endeavor I had to put myself through. But again, I'll explain, please be patient. This video is particularly challenging because there is such scarce information on the group or their mission statements. And the only reason I stumbled across this project is because of the comment section. But as fate would have it, I have indeed encountered these gentlemen before. Last year, to be precise. Much like you're doing right now, I'm breaking the fourth wall, isn't that spooky? Haha, okay, give me your wallet. And much like a lot of music I find online, the art of this album got me intrigued and really fascinated. Because if you're gonna have something as dope as this on your album, it better be pretty epic. I stumbled upon the group's most popular video. How to Disappear Completely, Mir der Revs 2, full album, 2017. And you heard me right, I did say 2. This is another multi-phase series. The video uploaded by The Big Pecola Man on July 29th, 2017 has an extremely respectable 1.5 million views. But adding to the mystique of How to Disappear Completely, this isn't their YouTube channel, and they don't really have an official channel because all their work seems to be spread across the internet on miscellaneous YouTube channels. Because the Big Pecola Man seems to specialize in live metal and drone music performances, and Mir der Revs 2 seem to just hit the YouTube algorithm correctly. Not only is the documentation of their music scarce, like I mentioned before, info on this group is even more scarce. The only information we have from the group is from the assorted YouTube channel descriptions and possibly, or bestly, the group's official Bandcamp page. No interviews, video, or text. No live performances, and I don't even think pictures of the bandmates exist. In my last Tuesday dissection video, I credited those who I researched from, like Jazz and Solar Sands, but legit, no videos about this group exist. I'm going in completely blind. And with all this material at my hands, you'd think we'd have more clues to knowing who these people are, but SoundCloud is just for the music, and the Facebook and Twitter pages are mere clones of each other, only giving updates on the music and retweeting people that they've worked with in the past. Pretty run-of-the-mill. But one constant across all their social medias was a go-to phrase that I found in almost all of them. Quote, How to Disappear Completely is a live collective based in Poland. The name of the project is based on Doug Richman's book, originally released in 1985. So at this point in my investigation, if this was Scooby-Doo, the Mystery Machine would be leading me to my next clue. Like the ones and zeros told me to do, I found the source material, a book titled How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found by the aforementioned Doug Richmond. The book is available on Amazon if your curiosity demands it and you got 20 bucks laying around, and lucky for you, I did. Now, I think my intuition was correct in saying that this book was a pretty big factor in understanding the band's methodology of making this music. So essentially from reading the book, I can say it's broken down into a like who, what, where, why kind of format. Who disappears? Who are they running from? Where do you go? Why someone would want to do this? And how to do it and essentially erase your past. Quite an interesting read if I'm being completely honest. I don't read a lot. I don't know if I come off as a book reading type, but I don't read a lot. And this book, if you want to like have a nice little, like that's not that much. That's like a little couple pages. It's like 100-ish pages. If you want something nice and easy to get back into book reading, I highly recommend this. I don't read a lot, so having something that kept my attention like this was almost a necessity. I think it kept my attention so well, not just because I'm making a video on this, but because the concept is so foreign and abstract that no one really talks about it a lot, really. I'm not saying I'm going to. I'm not. I don't plan on running away anytime soon. I mean, I don't plan on it, but we don't know what the future holds. But if you need to, it's good to know how. It's like sex ed. You don't want to learn what it is as soon as you're about to do it. You feel me? Do some research beforehand. But the book is essentially Mr. Richards going through stories of people who have done this and compiling it into a nice little how-to. He said in the book that the way he went about finding the information was he just went to like city streets and like posted like legit like posted flyers, and it's just like, if you disappeared completely and successfully, please call this number. And that's pretty much how he researched this entire book. All the people that are talked about in this book have disappeared completely. It's broken down into a few different sections, like who disappears and why, how, the mechanics of disappearing, creating a bulletproof new identity, coping. It's pretty much your all-encompassing guide to just become a psychopath and just get the fuck out of wherever you are. You know, having this book and like reading it, I realized how much of a morbid question that this truly entails. It's pretty much the step before dying is what this book is. If you are completely fucked in your life and you have no last resorts, this is it. This is all you got. And that's really was like weird when I'm holding the book and imagining people in situations that are getting chased by the mafia or something, or they need to figure out a way to get the fuck out before they die, and just imagining someone just like frantically shaking and reading this book really put me in the mind state of, oh fuck, this is gonna be a trip. But I'll give this book one thing. It did put me in the proper state to listen to the music. But you don't have to get the textbook for the class. It's not a required reading. But nonetheless, let's actually get into some music on this music review channel. So, I have a confession. I was purposely misleading you about what this music actually is. It's called Building Suspense. Read a book once in a while, you fucking cretins. To boil their entire discography down to a few words, it's essentially ambient drone music. And they haven't hopped on this ambient drone music wave like the rest of the heartbroken indie kids. How to Disappear Completely has been making music for quite a long time. Almost a decade, with their earliest Bandcamp release being on July 1st, 2012 with the Unrest EP. Now, this is where I come to an impasse with conflicting information. You see, How to Disappear Completely has a lot of music, and I wanted to commit to listening to their major projects, but here's my fork in the road, folks. Bandcamp and Spotify tell different stories. Bandcamp has their entire discography, and it's a lot of music, 11 albums. Dead End Angels, Colder, and Arterial in 2013. Oblivion/Rights, and Somnia in 2014. Lux Asunder and Dust, Lost Ghosts, and Echoes Volume 1 in 2015, Within Without, and Noxacarna in 2016, and Dusk Union and Reunion in 2017. And a quick side note, the artists who created these album covers are fucking beautiful. They're incredible, and tells a story on their own right, just as much as the music. So, huge ups to those album covers. But I'll dive a little deeper into the main album covers, put my tinfoil hat on, and tell my little conspiracy theory. But with each album averaging out at about an hour, give or take, if I wanted to listen to their entire studio album discography, I would be listening to 11 hours of music. Now, despite my career choices, I'm not clinically insane, so I could not do that. If there's an uproar for me to review the rest of the major projects, I might have to make a part 2, but this video is going to be way too long the way it is. So I decided to focus on the main projects on streaming services, Spotify to be exact. So I wanted to do my best to recreate the endurance exercise that made the Caretaker video so interesting. Plus, Mirror to Revs has 3 parts, so I'm going to take that as I need to listen to them in order with no interruptions. A little over 3.5 hours for the trilogy. So I'll use this as an endurance exercise, because I ain't fucking with no more 6.5 hour bullshit. And after the separate sitting, I'll listen to the 4th album, reaching almost 5.5 minutes with the 4th album all combined, but itself reaching over 1.5 hours. 4 albums. A 3-album trilogy, and a mysterious 4th album, built from the skeleton of the 3. Without further ado, let's dive into the first of the trilogy, Mirror to Revs 1. Now, a bit of context on this record and this series of records for that. This album was released on April 21st, 2017, and contains 12 tracks. Like I mentioned before, extremely limited information about this whole music thing exists, but the small amount of information we do get is from the group's official Bandcamp. The description for Mirror to Revs 1 reads, Mirror to Revs, music for insomniacs. A study in deliberately soothing textures designed to give the listener space to find stillness and collapse into rest. Late night lullabies. How to Disappear Completely presents Mirror to Revs, the first installment of Sleep Music. Almost 90 minutes of new music composed and recorded over a 12-month period, a song per month. Last year, recording this album, we wanted to keep it as simple as possible, using minimal amount of gear as possible. We genuinely appreciate your support and hope you enjoy the new music. As always, thanks for listening. More volumes of Mirror to Revs are likely to appear in the future. So with that cryptic information laid in front of my Yeezys, I think I attended most of the prerequisite classes, so I was ready to start the album listening process. Now going into it, I was expecting much what I thought The Caretaker would be. Something that would get under my skin and make me feel like, oh fuck, I'm in trouble, but no, quite the contrary actually. I felt this sense of calm and relaxation, but I felt too relaxed, if that makes any sense. For instance, multiple times throughout the listening of part 1, I found myself about to do things like write something down or text someone, but I was, for lack of a better term, catatonic. Like, I had free reign to move, but my mind was saying, you don't want to do that. You want to sit here and get swallowed. And that was essentially my state for the remainder of the Mirror to Revs trilogy. I do have to be honest, the diversity in sound was something that intrigued me. The music is just similar enough that when certain songs break the mold a bit, it's quite noticeable and makes me go, oh, okay, let's see what we've got. The first few tracks of the album set the stage for the majority feel and sound for the remaining of the project. The songs vary between high and low vibrations with angelic chords and choir pad music, but the first song that really got my canine ears perking up was the track Revere. Also, side note, I'm not sure if this is a different language or I'm just dumb, so please bear in mind, I can barely speak English, let alone any other language, so if a professional Redditor out there tells me that I said everything wrong, I'm doing my best, leave me alone. Revere was the first track that sounded noticeably dark. The intro is like you've just done something bad and the guilt has washed over you as you know, oh shit, I'm fucked. Expect a lot of metaphors in this video too, by the way. Another track, or set of tracks rather, were Seraphim 1 and 2, because not only are they the longest tracks on the album, but they have the same name as the Skeleton album that I'll go into later. Seraphim 1 starts off with this ambient white noise and then slowly swells into this pulsing, almost rotating synthesizer, like you just escaped from prison and the rotating watchtower is looking for you. And I'm not trying to skip around, so I'll explain Seraphim 2 at the end of this section since it is the last track of the album. The song Riva was a head scratcher because after listening to the 15-minute epic that was Seraphim, this track was only 2 minutes. The song started off with what only sounds like screams, only to evolve into angelic choir music. As if your pain has stopped, you're going to heaven because you are suffering. Swelling louder and louder as if the music is coming from heaven, and your spirit rises up so you can hear the music more and more clearly. The song Almost has this uncanny ability to make me feel like underwater. The bass synth in the song remind me of something that would play inside of an abandoned ship, almost reminiscent of the sounds of Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. Very low bassy rumbles signifying that death is upon you. I made my girlfriend listen to it and get some culture after being assaulted with a young gravy for an hour and a half. She said, quote, "This feels like I'm drowning," while staring at the surface of the water, slowly being dragged deeper and deeper as the breath leaves my lungs, and I'm about to die, but I'm okay with it. Quite poetic. Halia was what I was expecting to hear throughout the whole project. The song has a more industrial noise tinge to it, very Merzbow-esque, with these harsh industrial screeches and scrapes presented, but they're buried in the mix so it doesn't jump scare listeners. This song feels more machinery driven. And the last song on the album was the aforementioned Seraphim 2. The last track, much like Seraphim 1, is long as fuck, but this one is considerably more dark and depressive and almost hopeless. In a way, extremely simplistic, like, yeah, you just went on a self-reflective journey with this, and yeah, fuck you, bud, here's 15 minutes to make you think about how much of a piece of shit you are, and reflect on the mortality you, your friends, and family are all gonna face. The song kinda acts like the end credits to the album, much like the outro of Tyler the Creator's Flower Boy, but it makes you want to kill yourself. I mean, more anyway. I believe that the album cover matches the journey that the music is bringing you on. If we follow the order from Doug Richman's book on how to disappear, one of the first things he says to do is to remove all remorse from your mind, put on a mask as to not leak the information, and prepare for your departure. On the Bandcamp cover, I think it reflects the message. This individual is putting on a mask as to not release the information that they're about to make the journey and get out of Dodge. Like saying, yeah honey, everything's fine, of course I love your meatloaf, and the fact you cheated on me, the past is the past. A bit of a jokey way to explain things, but hey, if this was a serious video the entire time, this would be a Pat Chennington video. Doubt is the enemy of escape. You need to make sure that this is exactly what you want, and putting on a face is the only way to make sure that you, yourself, can know this is what you want, while your face on the outside shows a different story to the world. But speaking of getting out of Dodge, we come to the end of the first record and move on to the second. Love you, Pad. Mir de Revs 2 was released on July 28th, 2017. No new information to be had, so I'm going in raw, no rubber. This is the Bandcamp's most popular release, amassing the respectable 1.5 million views on the previously aforementioned YouTube channel. The record starts with Aslan in Silver Dust. Much like the previous album's intro, a sweet melodic song puts me in the state of relaxation, just ready to have some wholesome good times trapped in my own head. One of the songs that really popped out to me was Pandora, because of the simple fact that this was the first discernible vocals that I could find. Super slowed down vocals added more texture to the song, almost vaporwave-esque. There's a point around about a third of the way through the track where it goes from a deep sound to a high sound, something that would unsettle me, much less put me to sleep. Luna was a track that caught me off guard because this is an instrument. There's a discernible instrument that's not a synth. Sound the alarms and call Chipley. We got a piano, boys. A piano in the background of Luna. Man, look at us now. Do you think we'd be here? I didn't. But just as I thought this couldn't get any wilder, we get a chorus. A synth-led chorus. I'm not shitting you. This is not a chord. This is a melody. Are we on Australia? Why the fuck is everything upside down? What is going on? I legit started to like freak out a little bit when I heard this. So far, if I had to pick one of my favorite songs, Luna is around the top of the list. Even though it kind of defeats the purpose to pick a favorite song, because they're supposed to be listened to as wallpaper music, but due to the diversity of the track, this is going up there. Another track with the same diverse instrumental palette is Riona. The track has a synth chord passage, a vocal choir passage, back to a chord passage, back to choir, then a melody passage, and back to chord. It's a song structure. We must really be in the salty spittoon because shit's getting real goofed. And right as I thought shit couldn't get any wild, we got a legit noise piece. Endure is a legit white noise piece of music. Much more poignant than the white noise song from Mir de Revs 1. The noise in this one cannot be ignored. So far we're on a hot streak of songs that break the mold of this insomniatic state I found myself in. A quick shout out to Ivo for a low pass filter on the track. Sounds like if we're sticking to the theme of someone running away from life, receiving a phone call from someone of their past life and they're speechless that they found them. Lalia gives us an Anavon Housewolf vibes with these woodwind style synths and instruments. And just like that we get to the final track once again on the album, the mysterious Seraphim 3. Much like Seraphim 2 from Mir de Revs 1, it works as an end credits of sort, purposely to wash over you and to reflect on what you just listened. And continuing my cover conspiracy to tie this in, the cover looks to depict our protagonist looking through a frosted glass window, as if they're getting one last look at their past life before they make up their mind and can't go back, as they will never see their past life again as the train chugs on. And as slow synths come to an end, we close. We finish the second album. We move on to the last album in the Mir de Revs trilogy. Mir de Revs 3 was released on August 3rd, 2018. The last installment of the trilogy. And something interesting about episode 3, if you will, the Bandcamp description read, more volumes of Mir de Revs are likely to appear in the future. Now you can see where I'm going with this, because the past two records would have follow-ups to them, but Mer de Revs 3 is the last one, so there would not be more volumes of Mer de Revs to come. So I was curious what description 3 would read. The third description has the normal information, but an additional segment at the end that reads, dedicated to the loving memory of Dora. Since the band is so secretive, I don't know who this individual is, but something tells me to just leave it alone and keep this in the back of my mind while I listen to it. But nonetheless, rest in peace. The last album starts with a continuation of the Aslan saga, this time Aslan Ascent. Levana is another one of the tracks that have a special little melody or something else for me to sink my teeth into. The super high-pitched melody contrasts extremely well with the very low bass tones of the chords. A lyra kicked me into high gear with a special transition point about halfway through the track. I've noticed as we progress into the trilogy, the music has been getting ever so slightly more complex in the sequence, which has more consistently allowed me to retain attention over these multiple hours. Hollis starts off very creepy with this almost piano string screech, like it's sort of a clipping song. No, fuck that. No, that was scary as fuck. Oh my god. Hell no. Please tell me you got that. Oh my god, my door just opened by itself. I did not plan that. That was so fucking scary. Okay, now I'm spooked. It's almost like it knows. Fuck, I'm scared now. But it evolves and incorporates these scratching sounds with these ambient drones. I was thinking while listening to this, what if they just decided just fucking put in a loud jump scare or a terrifying wall of noise, something off Clipping's latest album intro. That would give people genuine heart attacks. So when that idea popped in my head halfway through the listen, it had me a bit spooked. I was looking over my shoulder, metaphorically. Saren was lullaby-esque with the almost glockenspiel part, almost like a Disney princess getting sung to sleep or something. Probably the most relaxing on the record, if I'm bold enough to say. Aria was something of an ambient interference noise overlaid with very quiet pads, something that put me on the edge of my seat, ready for the final track. Seraphim 4 is another extremely long closer to the record, with this uncanny ability to make me feel like I'm underwater. Why do all of these songs make me feel like I'm underwater? Or underneath the earth, like I was buried alive, and I could still hear the vaguely humanistic noises. I'm set in place at the will of the elements. Like an American Horror Story, when a woman who was cursed with immortality paid the ultimate price when she was buried alive, and when she couldn't die, she was forced to live all of eternity, hearing the remainders of humanity as she was forced to live underground and just watch in front of her eyes her life pass her by. And speaking of buried alive, my final part in the album cover story, our protagonist or antagonist, depends on how you look at it, had their past life catch up to them. From forces unbeknownst to them, whoever wanted to find them did, and was not happy about it, killing them and burying them in a desert, Breaking Bad style, as the soil covers their face in their shallow grave. Now that's what I call music, but we aren't just finished yet. I promise listen to the 3 Mer de Revs albums, but a story I'm still waiting to finish is the Skeleton album, Seraphim. Seraphim was released on March 13th, 2019, and is the last major project to date How to Disappear is released. Now starting this, I was excited to go to the Bandcamp page for more information. Would this be like the previous 3 releases? Would this be something completely different? Would this be a trap album? I have no idea. This is the internet. Anything's possible. I was correct. Not about the trap rap album, but about the change. The new description reads, Mer de Revs, Seraphim. A dream will free us from our chains, mysterious and infinite. A sweet trembling runs through us, as if an echo sounded from the depths of our despair. A study in deliberately soothing textures, designed to give the listener space to find stillness and collapse into rest. How to Disappear completely presents Seraphim, a coda to our experimental sleep music project, Mer de Revs series. To be honest with you, we've been considering it and wanting to make this kind of record after recording Seraphim 2 on the first volume of Mer de Revs. Material for this album was composed and recorded over the last 2 years during Mer de Revs recording sessions. The end result is almost 2 hours of music that we hope you'll enjoy as much as we did recording it. As always, thank you for listening and your support. Dedicated to the loving memory of Mark Hollis. After reading the new description, I could see where the difference lies between these 2 ventures. Whereas Mer de Revs had ups and downs of emotion, some were uplifting, some were dark, some were mysterious, and some were even hopeful. Constant for Seraphim is relaxation and sleep. I can't exactly dive too deep into the individual songs because each track is far too long and isn't expected to be judged separately, thus them being all titled the same thing. While Mir de Rêves was made for experimental sleep, Seraphim is the master of it. It is a perfect way to leave your body in the middle of the night. There is no sinister undertones or scary electronic noise courses. The album encompasses pure sleep. With the absence of noise, it plays right into my theory of the album cover. This is our protagonist at death, and this is what they see. Nothing. They see the absence of music. They've been spending their whole journey trying to escape from their mortal existence and disappear from the past life, whereas the one thing they seeked out most would be their demise. You ended up doing the ultimate disappearing act, going out Breaking Bad style, in a hole. As you're about to die and the dirt covers your face, we can hear what they're seeing. We can hear the only true and foolproof way to disappear completely. And that's what this is about. Mir de Rêves is the process from start to finish on how to disappear. You put on a face and decide your fate. You take one last look back at your past life. You end up either living happily ever after as your new life is someone else, or you end up caught. And when someone does catch you and they're unhappy, Seraphim is the life before death. The dirt covering your eyes. Your inability to see any concrete figures, just abstract shapes. Mir de Rêves is the auditory guide to disappearing completely and never being found. Over my listening sessions for this music, I found myself forgetting that I'm listening to the music. I found myself in a catatonic state for almost hours at a time. I started listening to Aslan, and in a blink of an eye, I would have just listened to an entire hour-and-a-half album. It opens a larger conversation about ambient music that I don't think I have time in this video to explore, but I definitely will in the future, so stay tuned. So I found it interesting how music can make you feel in such a way that makes you contemplate about your deepest thoughts while you simultaneously experience the absence of thought. The music says a lot without really saying anything. It's a very interesting phenomenon that very little can equate to. The closest thing is probably meditating, and I did indeed meditate to this music, and it just made a lot of sense to me. Whereas meditating, you want to remove thoughts from your brain. The best way to remove thought is an album designed to. Now, a question that I got a lot from the Caretaker video was, do I recommend this album? For Caretaker, I'd say it's a tough call. Depending on how much time you have and depending how well you can mentally take a dementia simulator, if I were asked, do I recommend How to Disappear Completely? I'd say absolutely. Because unlike Caretaker, you have a preconceived storyline weaved into the music, where you're supposed to feel a slow mental decline, and you're supposed to feel the horrible and terrifying effects of this disease. But for How to Disappear Completely, you can plug in whatever narrative fits your type of experience. You create the story. You insert your own characters. You insert your own storyline. You insert you. It was supposed to be listened to while one sleeps, but I cannot have reflective music playing in my brain. I would think way too hard and it would be impossible for me to fall asleep. So if one of you brave soldiers want to give it a try, please be my guest and tell me about it, because my brain will not let me sleep in complete silence. But yeah, that was How to Disappear Completely. I've got some new reading material, so that's pretty cool. I got some new music to listen to on a rainy night drive, and I got a backup plan in case this whole YouTube thing goes to shit. Catch me in El Salvador as a little wheat farmer. So, in conclusion, listen to and support this band. And if you took the challenge with me, like what you hear, try and support them. They have a Bandcamp page where you can buy their stuff, and they have so much more music. If you need to scratch your itch, then go check it out. If you want to read the manga the anime was based off of, Doug Richman's How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found is available on Amazon. Also, side note, if I had a fucking quarter for every time someone in my life saw me reading this book and asked me, "Are you okay?" I have 2 gumballs by now. I would read this book at work and just knew that customers in the shop would get slightly concerned when I saw this employee reading a book about how to fucking disappear. But overall, I would say this is a pretty positive experience. So unless you're going into this ready to have an existential crisis, then you should have an overall positive experience, because it's unlike Caretaker, it's supposed to be a negative experience. You're supposed to realize how fucked up and sad that this disease is. Whereas this is the opposite. This is a positive experience. It's meant to calm you and put you in a different state of mind, where that's where it gets dangerous. If you create a negative state of mind, then you could have a negative experience. So it's kind of like a bad trip on drugs. You kind of have to take it if you really want it to make sense to you. Describing it only gets you so far. But it all depends if you do want to disappear completely. Hey, what's up? Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I was meaning to do a video like this for a while. The script has been sitting in front of me for a very long time, but it was something that it needed to feel right, you know? It needed to be the right time for me to record this, and this is the right time. It did take me a very long time because I had a lot of different ideas for the script and a lot of different ideas for shooting locations and a lot of weird, like, Sneeko type vibes. One of my favorite YouTubers right now, but, you know, sometimes it just doesn't go to plan. But November has been really greasing my shit, staying real good with music, merch, school, and this. But before I head out, I do want to mention a few things. Biggest thing that I want to mention right now is my Patreon. I do indeed have a Patreon. It's at a bucket of Jake. The link will be in the description because the search function on Patreon is dog shit. So if you want to seek me out, give me a couple extra dollars for the content you watch. I would extremely appreciate that. I'll try my best to update it all the time. If I don't, keep me alert on that because I do not want to just have it as a sponge and absorb your money. It's got a lot of cool goodies like new content, bonus content, early content, and you can have your name at the end of the credits as an executive producer, like as I'm doing right now. It'll be scrolling across the screen as I speak. Another thing I really want to mention is my music. Jake Joseph Music has really been popping off ever since you guys found out about Birdsong, and I could not be more thankful. Thank you so much for listening to Birdsong, because it's my first song to get over 1,000, and I can't wait to look back at that and say, wow, that's a very small number. But if you're watching this, this means I can officially announce that my new album, Super Jail, comes out March 6th, and I'm extremely excited about it. I have been working on this project for years, plurally years. I've been working on this, with songs getting put together in such a way that I needed it to be perfect to fit the vibe almost. And it's finally ready. The debut single from the album is out now. It's called The Ooze. It's available on all major streaming services, and it's available on my website, jakejosephmusic.com. All the links and stuff are there, and they'll be in the description. And there's going to be merch coming, which I'm extremely excited about. Still trying to iron out the logistics of it, but when it does happen, it's going to be crazy. Shout out to my Instagram, @abucketofjake. If you want to check it out, you know, give me a follow. I try to keep up extremely well with the engagement. I'm always answering DMs, asking questions to people, and just, you know, basically just trying to connect with my fans very closely one-on-one. That's @abucketofjake, and on my Twitter, I have Twitter @JakeJosephMusic. I just kind of combine the two for that one, if you're so inclined to check Twitter, even though I'm not there a lot. And also, if you're watching this, then I've probably surpassed 50,000 subscribers. It's funny watching the Caretaker video and hearing me say, oh, we just got to 2,000 subscribers. A lot of people point that out, but I am shocked how that piece of music has changed my life. And the only person I have to thank is you, the listener. So if you contributed to this and you know who you are, then I'm extremely thankful. And I know all YouTuber, you know, thank yous sound very ingenuine, but I understand because I don't know how to say thank you in a more genuine way, because you have legitimately changed my life. So thank you for that. Along with YouTube, I have my podcast, the Big Fish Podcast. It's available almost every Wednesday. As you're watching this, I believe the latest guest I had on was Vinyl Rewind. We talked about a lot of cool stuff about his hair. We had viewer questions. We talked about traveling. It was a really wholesome good time. So that's up right now on major streaming services. Links will be in the description. The Big Fish Podcast. And the next guest I have on is a small Indian musician that goes by the name of Earl Elliott. He's a really cool guy. And we talked a lot about the etymology of language and how language affects the human body and how it affects the human psyche. It was really cool. I really recommend giving that a listen because it was way more wholesome than my show usually is, so give it a listen. But other than that, I just thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Myriad Revs really kicked my ass, so if you like this video, give it a like, you know, give it a subscribe, because it helps me out. I'm going to make a lot more videos in this style with weird ambient or albums with really cool stories, so stay tuned. I'm really happy, and I was really excited to do this. I really wanted to add a specific part to the story, but I don't think that's going to happen today because I'm looking at the raw recording and it's gone past easily 50 minutes. So this is going to be a doozy. So I think I have another video that is going to fit very snugly with that topic. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Other than that, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I know all YouTube thank you sound fake, but I don't know how to make it sound more genuine. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. All my links are in the description. As long as you support Meritor Revs on their Bandcamp, social media, and other platforms, then you're good to go. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Super Gel out March 6th. The Ooze out now. Big Fish Podcast every Wednesday. Instagram at A Bucket of Jake. Patreon at A Bucket of Jake. Thank you. I appreciate it. And have a pleasant day.